Thinking of selling your home but not sure what all the paperwork means? This video breaks down the most important form you'll sign, step by step, so you're confident and protected. If you're thinking about selling your house, this video is for you. I'm walking through the OREA Form 271, the Seller Designated Representation Agreement. You'll know exactly what you're signing, why it matters, and how a real estate agent like myself will be representing your interests every step of the way. If we haven't met, my name's O'Dane. I'm a real estate agent working across East Toronto, Scarborough, and the Durham Region. If you'd like to connect to see what it's like working with me, or if you want to walk through this paperwork one-on-one, I've left a link to my calendar in the description. Feel free to book a time that works for you. Now, this isn't just paperwork, it's the foundation for getting your home sold. So let's break it down together. And if you find this helpful, don't forget to like, share it with somebody that you know that might be thinking of selling, comment, or subscribe. So let's get right into it. At the top, you'll see two boxes or bubbles, the MLS listing or the exclusive listing. Now you get to choose or discuss with your realtor which path you're going to take. And what you would do is select one bubble and initial in that bubble. An exclusive listing means that your home is not on the MLS yet, nor realtor.ca, but I could still promote it quietly, like within the realtor community. I can inform other realtors one-on-one within my brokerage, other realtors that I have personal relationships with, and if I have any buyers that are looking for what your particular home is, I can let them know about it as well. It's also a great tool that we can use in the meantime while your home is being prepared and staged to go onto the market on a bigger scale. Also, there are some situations where, as a seller, you might not want to go to the MLS. Privacy issues and things of that nature. And then when you're ready for full exposure to the market, meaning the MLS, realtor.ca, and all the other syndicated websites that get a data feed from realtor.ca, we would sign another listing agreement and initial in the MLS bubble. That way, the listing will go out to realtor.ca and thousands of websites across Canada. The next section is who's involved in getting your home sold. That would be my brokerage, myself, and you as the seller. My name would appear under the designated representative section so that you know who's officially working with you to get your home sold. Underneath that is the property details, so your address, and also the dates that this agreement is active and the actual time that this agreement commences. This includes the property address and the dates that this agreement is active. So essentially from the time I'm allowed to represent you to the time the agreement ends, and that also has to be initialed. Next, we have the listing price and terms. We'll enter the price here once we have reviewed the market together. If it's still under discussion, we can mark it as to be determined. There's also a section where you have to initial, stating that you're not working with any other realtors for the sale of this home. Now let's take a look at definitions and interpretations. It just looks like a paragraph, but this section actually is pretty deep. Now it might seem small, but it's actually one of the most important sections in this whole agreement because it sets the tone for the entire contract. It clearly explains what certain terms mean within the context of this agreement. Everything's laid out in plain language. And I'll break down each of the terms. The first one is seller. Now that doesn't just include the person that's on title, but anyone who has a legal interest in the property, like a spouse, a beneficiary, or someone acting under a power of attorney. Next is the buyer. And that's not limited to just the person who's writing the offer and their name is on the agreement of purchase and sale. It includes anyone who has an interest in purchasing the property, somebody buying on behalf of the buyer, somebody buying on behalf of a family member, or through a corporation. Next is a self-represented party assistance, and this is an important one. This refers to the type of limited help that I can offer a buyer who isn't working with their own agent. I can provide general information like how to fill out a form or when offers are being reviewed, but I don't represent them. I continue to represent you and work in your best interest. The next term is the real estate board, and that means the local board or association that governs how listings are shared and promoted. This is where your listing will be uploaded when we move to the MLS. Next up is public marketing, and that refers to any promotion accessible to the general public, like advertising online, social media posts, lawn signs, open houses, and syndications to websites like realtor.ca. Finally, at the bottom, there's a clause that includes legal clarification that when the agreement mentions anyone being introduced or shown the property, That includes spouses, heirs, executors, administrators, successors, assigns, related corporations, and affiliated corporations. That's a legal safety net to make sure that whoever's connected to the buyer is also covered by this agreement's terms. This is a foundational section that makes sure that there's no confusion about who's involved, what the rules are, and how the agreement is going to be interpreted moving forward. Now here's the hot topic, commission. Now you'll see here that the total professional fee or remuneration that we agree upon will typically be split between two sides. One portion goes to the cooperating brokerage that brings the qualified buyer. The remainder will go to my brokerage, as I represented you as your listing agent. And just so you know, that wasn't always the case. Years ago in Ontario, we didn't have something called buyer agency. So even if a realtor was working with a buyer, they actually still represented the seller's interests. Crazy, right? Back then, the listing agent was usually responsible for finding the buyer as well. Luckily, the industry has evolved to protect buyers as well. Now, most buyers hire their own agent who works specifically for them, which means they're owed fiduciary duties. That's why a portion of the commission is usually paid to the buyer's agent's brokerage to compensate them for bringing a buyer and representing their interest in the transaction. And here's something that not every agent will tell you. If the cooperating commission is low, some agents may steer their clients away. What do I mean by that? On the realtor portion of the MLS, there's a section that says cooperating commission, meaning how much a buyer agent will be paid. If it's low, the buyer agent might call the listing agent to negotiate for a higher percentage. And if they can't do that, they might tell their clients, hey, let's not see this property because I don't want to negotiate with you for my fee and have you pay extra. Or they might steer their clients away and just make up an excuse for seeing that property and not show it to them. It is illegal, but unfortunately, it does happen. So while you always have the final say on what to offer the cooperating agent, my job is to help you understand how this might impact visibility, showings, and ultimately the offer that you receive. I always want your home to be positioned to attract the most qualified buyers, not filtered out behind the scenes. By the way, if you're still with me, great job. I know this is a lot of detail, but it's the kind of information that most sellers never get up front. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll walk you through a Schedule A where it talks about the specifics that your agent or myself will do for you. Next up is representation and multiple representation. But let's walk through the key duties I owe you as your listing agent. These aren't nice to haves. They're legal and ethical obligations designed to protect your best interests throughout this entire process. In real estate, we often use an acronym called OLD CAR, and I'll summarize what every letter means. The O is for ordain. Nah, I'm joking. But it makes sense, right? The O is actually for obedience. I have to follow all lawful instructions that you give me, whether it's setting the price, how you want your showings to be handled, or negotiating terms. I act on your direction as long as it's legal and ethical. The next letter is L. That stands for loyalty. And my loyalty is to you. That means I do everything possible to promote and protect your interests, not the buyers, not any other agents, just yours. The D is for disclosure. I have to tell you everything that could affect your decision to sell. That includes things like the buyer's motivation, if I know it, competing offers, or even issues with the property that you might not be aware of. The C is for confidentiality. Anything you tell me about your situation, your bottom line, your timing, or personal reasons for selling, it stays completely confidential, even after the home is sold. The A is for accounting. I'm responsible for handling and tracking any deposits, keys, paperwork, or anything else that you entrust me with. Everything is documented and properly accounted for. The R, last and final one, is for reasonable skill and care. You're hiring me as a professional. That means I'm expected to use my experience, my expertise, and knowledge to guide you through pricing, strategy, negotiation, preparation, every little detail involved so that you're protected and positioned to get the best possible outcome. Now let's talk about multiple representation. Now in criminal law, is it possible for a prosecutor, the person who is hired to withhold the law, is that person able to also effectively represent the accused? There's no way in hell. But this happens right now in real estate throughout Ontario, where an agent can provide assistance to both a buyer and a seller at the same time in the same transaction for the same house. Now, it's worth noting that the service for both parties involved in a multiple representation should dramatically decrease, because while I have to maintain that old car acronym for you, I would have to do the same thing for the opposition. So essentially, both sides would have somebody working for them that can't act in full capacity. That said, you as the seller can say that you don't want your realtor to represent any other party in this transaction. And your agent can either guide them towards another realtor to use, or they can find a realtor on their own who can work with them and be their designated representative. The bottom line here is that I'm here to protect your interests, keep you informed, and guide you with skill and care every step of the way. You can count on me to help you navigate the entire process with confidence. Next, you'll see a clause called finder's fees. This is just acknowledging that sometimes brokers and agents receive additional compensation from vendors like advertising platforms, mortgage companies, lawyers, and staging services. It doesn't change your total commission or the amount that you owe or cost you anything extra, and I'll always disclose if that ever applies. Me personally, I haven't ever received compensation from any other exterior source because I don't want to use a service just for some extra shillings in my pocket. I want to use someone because I feel that they're the best and they'll provide you with the best result. Referral of inquiries. This part is important. It means that if anyone asks about your property during the listing period, you agree to refer them to me as your representative. Even if a friend, neighbor, or even a family member expresses interest, I'll handle all communication, showings, and negotiations to make sure everything is compliant and documented properly. Marketing. This section gives me permission to market your property, whether online, social media, signage, brochures, and more. I'll be respectful of your privacy and will always guide you on the best strategy for exposure. Warranties. You're stating that you're legally allowed to sell your home, that there are no hidden issues like liens or any encumbrances on the property, and that you'll cooperate with the process. If there's anything that you're unsure of, we'll talk through it. Now, indemnification is more of something that protects the listing brokerage and myself. So if there's any loss or damage to your property while the home is listed, you wouldn't be able to come after me or the brokerage. We're on the same team trying to get you to your destination, but at the same time, anything can happen in that process. Not everybody is honest, and there could be some people who pose as buyers that are really criminals, and all they're doing is using a buyer agent to get into your home so that they can steal something. That's why it's important to have insurance, especially letting your insurance company know that you're going to be doing open houses. That way, if anything is stolen or damaged, you can go through insurance. It may not be the easiest thing during the time, but the best thing to do is to remove all your valuable possessions so that you don't even end up in that situation. The Family Law Act. Now, this applies to anyone who may be married but their name is not on title. In this case, based on the Family Law Act, even if you're not on title, you still must provide your consent on the listing agreement. This is done to protect people from having a property sold under their noses without knowing. So for example, during a divorce, the partner who's on title may try to sell the house and take the proceeds of the house and not have to split it with their soon-to-be ex-partner. And if you're not sure if this applies to you or what's required, just let me know and I'll walk you through it, or I'll connect you with a family law lawyer. Verification of information. This gives me the permission to verify key property details on your behalf. Things like zoning, square footage, tax assessments, or any outstanding permits. It helps us ensure that what we advertise is accurate and protects both you and the potential buyer. It also means that you, as the seller, are agreeing that the information you provide, like upgrades, renovations, or disclosures, is accurate to the best of your knowledge. That way, we avoid any surprises down the road and everything stays transparent and smooth. Use and distribution of information. This is a really important one, especially in today's digital world. So when you list your home, you're sharing some personal and property related information. Things like your name, the property address, the details, the listing price, photos of what your home looks like, and other features of your home. This clause gives me and my brokerage permission to use that information strictly for the purpose of marketing and selling your home. It also allows us to share this information with third-party sources that are a part of the real estate process, like real estate boards, realtor.ca, and any other affiliated syndicated websites that help promote your property to the public. Now here's the key part. Your privacy is still protected. We're not handing out your personal information to just anyone. This clause is simply giving permission to use and distribute your property related information in places where serious buyers are looking. So for example, your name, that doesn't go on the public websites. That's strictly in the MLS where only realtors can search. Now, once your home is sold, some of that information like the sale price and listing history becomes public record. That's just how the system works in Ontario. But it won't be used for unrelated marketing marketing or spam. Everything has a professional purpose tied to the sale. So this section protects both you and the brokerage. It ensures we're allowed to promote your property the right way while also respecting your privacy and the limits of how your information is used. Successors and assigns. This simply means that this agreement still applies if something changes with the seller's legal status, like if the property is part of an estate, trust, or a corporation. It keeps everything enforceable no matter what happens. And yes, even death. Conflict and discrepancy. What this means is that if there's ever a conflict between one of the standard pre-written clauses in the agreement, something we've added in a custom Schedule A, or another attached schedule or addendum, the schedule will take priority. So basically, if we write in any unique terms that we've agreed on, that will override the default wording in the main agreement. That's why it's so important to review what's in the Schedule A or any addendums, because they're treated as final say. Electronic communication and signatures. Again, we live in a digital world, and this section allows us to use emails and e-signature platforms like DocuSign, Adobe Sign, Dropbox Sign, and what I use, DigiSign, to pass information electronically, to get signatures electronically, and treat that as legally binding documents. It's secure, convenient, and you can open it up on your phone or computer. Underneath, you'll see the insurance declaration. I'm required to confirm that I am insured, which protects you in case anything ever goes wrong. You'll see my signature, which acts as insurance confirmation here. Now for the Schedule A. This is where the relationship comes to life. I outline exactly what I'll do, things like the advice I'll offer, keeping you current on the market, and some of the things that I'll actually do to get your home sold. This cuts out all ambiguity, and you would know exactly what your agent needs to do so that you can keep them accountable. Whew. I know that was a lot of information, but I want you to feel 100% confident that you understand what you're signing and how I'm working in your best interest. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. And if you have any questions, just book a call in my calendar link. And if you know anybody that can benefit from watching this video, all I ask is that you share it with them. Stay tuned for more, and don't forget to expand your vision with real estate.